Hello, welcome. Gamefusion is finally out. For those who don't know, it's an application similar to Winlator but with one big difference. You don't need a PhD and 2 master's degrees to use it. That's right, practically any user will be able to install their games and get them running on Gamefusion. First, let's briefly explain what Gamefusion is. It's one of the initiatives that allow you to play PC games on Android phones. Before this, we already had other solutions, with the most famous one being Winlator. However, configuring Winlator was quite challenging, involving multiple compatibility layers for different games, specific drivers, and various extra functions. While functional, Winlator was clearly not designed for the average user, who ended up spending hours just trying to run a single game. To solve this problem, Gamestr, a Chinese company known for manufacturing controllers for Android, developed Gamefusion. Basically, it uses a database that downloads most of the dependencies and configures the game for you. So, all you need to do is launch the game and adjust the necessary graphics settings. If you want to play with an external controller, you won't need additional apps. Gamefusion provides everything you need so that, once you add the game folder, it magically opens on your screen. While the database is still somewhat limited, most modern games are already recognized and configured automatically. That's why I would say Gamefusion is the best solution for the average user. I'll leave the app link in the description for anyone who wants to test it. However, there are some important steps to follow for it to work correctly. If your phone is set to English, you can skip this part. Otherwise, you'll need to add English as a system language and set it as the primary language while using Gamefusion. That's because if the system is in another language, you'll get stuck on a white screen when trying to configure your controller. Some devices allow setting specific languages for individual apps, but unfortunately, this feature doesn't work with Gamefusion yet. So, for now, the only solution is to set your entire device to English. When you launch the app, it will ask for an update. Go ahead and update it without any worries. After that, you'll see the home screen. The app also supports game streaming platforms like Xbox Game Pass and Steam Link, but that won't be our focus today. To add new games, go to the library, the second icon, and click the plus button to add a new game. Then, simply select the location of the games.exe file. Keep in mind that Gamefusion is only compatible with pre-installed games. For this recording, I used most of my games from a drive I've already shown on the channel. If you're looking for pre-installed games online, there are 2 safe websites to download them from. However, for legal reasons, I can't share them here. Once the games are added, just wait a little bit. If the game is in the Gamefusion database, the app will automatically download the cover and all necessary dependencies. Once everything is ready, just click the play icon. Don't forget to connect your controller if you want to use one. I use the EasySMX M15, which already has a review video here on the channel. Basically, Gamefusion supports most X-input controllers as well as DualShock. One important note, pay attention to your device's temperature. Just opening the app already causes some heat buildup. However, I found this to be normal, especially compared to Nintendo Switch emulators. If you have experience and prefer to adjust settings manually, you can do so before launching the game. I tested Gamefusion on a device with Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and had below expected performance in more demanding games like The Witcher 3 and Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake. However, I've seen impressive tests on Snapdragon Elite devices. The best part of Gamefusion is that anyone can quickly add multiple games without spending hours researching configurations for Wine and DXVK. Now let me show you some of my results. But first, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if it's your first time here. It helps me bring more tests like this one. I started with something lighter on my device, Mega Man Zero ZX. Being a Nintendo DS game ported to PC, it will probably run on any device. As you can see, the frame rate is stable at 60 FPS, with no issues or stutters, and the device's hardware still has plenty of headroom. The second game was Hades 2. Like the previous one, it ran very well, averaging over 40 FPS, with some fluctuations but still in a good state. For a game running on Gamefusion, the performance is decent. If it were natively released for Android, we would see even better results. On the other hand, both Ori Saga games couldn't get past the loading screen. This is likely due to a missing dependency, which could be fixed in future updates. In Dark Souls Remastered, even with everything set to low and the resolution at 720p, the performance was below expectations. In open areas, the average FPS was below 20, causing slowdowns and input delay. In smaller areas, performance improved to around 30 FPS. However, I consider the game unplayable on this device for now. I also tested the first Red Dead Redemption. Unfortunately, the performance was below 10 FPS, and the game didn't utilize the hardware's full potential. This was expected, as I didn't think it would come close to 30 FPS. I tested the Resident Evil 3 Remake demo. There's a section in the app where you can download and install demos directly through Gamefusion, and that's how I obtained this game. Initially, performance was good, around 30 FPS. However, in open areas, the average dropped to 15 FPS, causing so much input delay that the experience became unviable. Lastly, I tested The Witcher 3. With all settings at low and resolution at 720p, graphical performance was far superior to Nintendo Switch emulators. However, the 20 FPS average in open areas is still below ideal for this device, even using all available hardware. At this point, I realized the games I could run would primarily be from the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation, as newer games showed below expected performance. So, I decided to test some older yet still great titles. The first was Far Cry 3. The opening cutscene ran normally, with FPS above 40 most of the time. However, upon starting gameplay, the character kept looking upwards and falling infinitely, an issue that prevented any progress. This error occurred in both DirectX 9 and DirectX 11 modes. Even so, the test confirmed my suspicion. Games from this generation have a good chance of running on my device. Next, I tested Need for Speed Rivals. Despite being older, this game uses a heavy engine. Unfortunately, the version I downloaded was in Russian, and I couldn't change the language. So, the gameplay you're likely seeing in the background was captured on medium settings. The graphics quality was incredible, with the game running at normal speed and reaching over 40 FPS at times. The only issue was occasional screen shaking, but overall, I considered the game playable. The final game I tested was Dark Souls 2, which surprised me by reaching nearly 50 FPS on my device, running at 720p on low settings. For those who've missed Dark Souls on Android, this is an opportunity to experience the game. I admit I haven't fully dedicated myself to this franchise, but the gameplay was one of the most impressive I tested. I also tested other games, such as DMC, Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2, Tomb Raider 2013, and a few others that are not yet in the app's database. Since I don't know how to configure them manually, each had different issues. For example, DMC is listed in the system, but the game would crash right after the menu and return to the desktop. I'm not sure if it was due to a corrupted file or an issue with the emulator. Now, for the final thoughts. I consider this an amazing alternative, both for the automatic driver selection and the ability to use native system drivers. This allows devices like Snapdragon Elite to have decent compatibility and performance. With more updates, I believe the results will improve even further, expanding the options for Android gamers. The controller compatibility was also excellent. Even in games that don't have native support for DualShock 4, the emulator did its job and made the controller functional, similar to how Steam handles it. Speaking of Steam, an integration with accounts would be very useful, allowing the use of games we already own without having to search for alternative versions online. That was today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.